Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Candlepower Hour. We are here with a very special guest, Antonio Aguilar from the band Alma Sangre, the musical group. They're from East LA. He has been a legendary Los Angelino for obviously many years. Let me give you a little bit of introduction to Alma Sangre and what they're all about. According to their bio, Alma Sangre is a Latino roots duo combining Spanish guitar and lyrics accompanied by flamenco rhythms and dance. The band features singer-guitarist Antonio Aguilar and multi-instrumentalist and dancer Meg Castellanos. Inspired by the grit and emotion of Chevala Vargas, their music is poetic and filled with dramatic tension. So, Tony, welcome to the podcast. How's everything today?
Welcome.
Good. It's nice to be here. Thanks so much for.
It's nice to have you in these very interesting times. So, Los Angeles, we just got through some horrific fires.
Yeah.
And there's a big fire going on nationally, and we're just trying to get through it. So let's talk about Alma Sangre. Let's talk about your music. Let's talk about you guys. Where did you guys come from? And tell us a little bit about your group.
So Alma is a culmination of Meg studying dance. Meg is my wife, Margaret Aguilar, and she had studied modern dance, and then started studying flamenco when we were in the Bay Area a long time ago, like 20 years ago. And she had always sort of wanted me to learn flamenco so that she could do flamenco. But I've always been of the thought that I'd rather create my own thing. So it took me a really long time. We did the whole rock world. We toured for like 20 something years in rock bands. I was in a band called Torimoshi. We put out 6 albums. We toured continuously in the United States, Europe. We got to open for really big bands. We did that for a really long time, and then until one day I seen this video of this guy named Sabicas, who I absolutely fell in love with as a guitar player, and I thought to myself, I really like the way he approaches guitar. I want to try that. So I got a nylon string guitar, and as I didn't want to sound like Sabicas, because you can't sound like Sabicas because the guy's a master, I wanted to approach music in the way that Sabicas approaches his guitar work. So I started to play stuff like what I thought Sabicas played like, and then I heard this singer named Chavela Vargas, and I thought, wow, it would be really cool to blend these two styles together and create my own thing. And that was sort of the beginning of it. And then slowly I felt like what I was doing in my previous band in Torimoshi, the songwriting style could carry over into the flamenco style. And so I kind of crossed the two, started singing in Spanish, which I'd never done ever in my life. And
was that like a hard transition to just go from speaking it to singing it?
It weirdly, it wasn't. It was actually what I realized when I started singing in Spanish was that most of my memories from my childhood are in Spanish. So it caused me to sing more emotionally, more emotive, I feel like. And it actually did something to my voice that I had never heard my voice do, which I found really interesting. So I just sort of pursued the road, and then that sort of just naturally started just turning into the songwriting style that turned into Alma Sangre. And then the other way that we approached it too is that the one thing that I do love flamenco very much, but I don't want to be in an improvisational band. That's just not the way I write. So I wanted to incorporate Meg's dancing in her rhythm into the actual songwriting. So a lot like Son Jarocho does, where it's actually like more it's more part of the music, whereas I feel like in flamenco it's more of like a soloist format or sort of an improvisational format. So I try to incorporate it into the songwriting. So and we did. And then now, so we had originally started the band with a friend of mine named Silas Height, and Silas is a Grammy-winning composer. He used to work with he's the nephew of Mark and Bob from Devo, and he used to work at their place Mutado Music for a really long time. And Silas was a really good old friend, and so I approached him with this idea. I already had a few songs written of the Alma Sangre stuff, and he really liked it. And so Silas did some congas, and he did some mandolin stuff on the really early recordings that we had of it. But then Silas, we got too busy. Silas was way too busy because he literally makes his money off of film scores and TV and scores. So we put it away. And then we went and we did this rock band named All Souls. We made 3 albums with All Souls, which was really fun. It was amazing. We got to tour with really amazing bands. We got to open for the Melvins, do tours with Jesus Lizard, Red Fang.
What kind of music was All Souls?
And Tool. All Souls is sort of a progressive metal band, kind of King Crimson-ish, but darker, way darker even than King Crimson. I feel like it's I don't really know how to describe it. It's a band that I started with my friend Eric Trammell, and then I brought Meg in as the bass player, and a friend of mine named Tony Tournay, who's in a band called Fatso Jetson, who's an old SST band. So yeah, we did All Souls for a really long time, and All Souls kind of ran its course, and towards the end we decided that we wanted to do Alma Sangre again. So I quickly wrote more songs for Alma, and then we did the EP that I think that you've heard.
It's fantastic.
Thank
so
you
what
very much.
inspired your name?
What's
band,
that?
What inspired the band name?
Meg named it. She wanted soul blood in the name, so we came up with a bunch of different titles, and then Alma Sangre sort of came together, and it was Meg who came up with the band name. But I love the idea of blood, soul, so
right. Well, I have a question, because you mentioned that your childhood memories are in Spanish, and I've never really thought about that before. I mean, growing up bilingual, growing up with multiple languages in your household, it's pretty cool to think that your childhood has memories from a different language, because sure, you grew up and your grandmother, your family, everybody speaking Spanish. Those are your memories, and I think that's pretty important that you were able to grasp that and create music and your own artwork based on your childhood in Spanish. I think that's great.
Well, I've always used songwriting as a form of purging the demons, as they say, and I've always used music to get me into states of subconscious realizations, especially writing lyrics, where I write phonetically a lot, and then later on realize that the phonetic melodies that I'm singing are actual real words, and then I'll write the words down, and then oftentimes it actually makes sense, and then I start to make more sense out of them as I realize what I'm writing about,
right?
What I was singing about originally. But yeah, I feel like when I started to sing in Spanish, like it's almost like it opened something in my it felt like it opened something in my skin. It opened something in my soul and in my subconscious that maybe I was holding in a certain part of my brain. And then it released those memories, which include a lot of really heavy shit. It's a lot of really heavy stuff from growing up in a family that, it's like the Latino experience. Or like I think I told you before that I was a field worker when I was a little kid. My mother was a campesina, so we would have to go and work in. I worked in the San Joaquin Valley, a lot of the San Joaquin area around Bakersfield, and then all the way to Texas, where we would have to stay in these camps and
Wow.
What do you mean camps?
migrant field worker camps.
Farm
So-
workers.
So,
so-
so what was the thing that got you into music in the first place? Usually we like to ask people like your origin story, like from the very beginning, how did you end up to where you are right now?
Music, as far back as I can remember. I feel like there's different types of musicians. I feel like there's the ones that can pinpoint a time where it consciously came into them, and there are some that I think that were just born into it and can't. Because I can't remember a time where I wasn't into music. My grandmother even bought me a little toy guitar because I used to sing songs for her when I was a little kid before I could really even speak. So I remember listening to like being like 4 or 5 years old or 6 years old, and my mom jamming Tigres del Norte or all the old mariachis, Vicente Fernandez. I'm named after Antonio Aguilar. Pedro Infante, like all the stuff that we would listen to in the house. And then my dad was really into honky tonk. My dad was into Tammy Wynette, because we lived right next to, we lived 45 minutes from Bakersfield. So a lot of the Bakersfield scene, a lot of that sound
Right.
was all over my hometown.
So being a part of the farm worker community, how did you get into more American music and the metal? Because you grew up with your culture, you grew up within all that music, your mother and father listening to all these types of genres. How did you discover the more, the heavier realms of music, and where were you? Were you still in the fields working? Was it a part of
No, that was
something that got you through the day?
That was from my cousins. I had a I had a cousin who was a Marine, and he told me the only thing he learned to do in the Marine is kick ass and do drugs. So he was
And party.
he was a
I've never
hippie.
heard that.
He was a hippie who loved smoking weed and doing like pretty heavy drugs, and he used to let me come over to his house, and he had a huge record collection. And he
Nice.
would let me. He never locked the door, so I would just walk in and I would just listen to music. And he had this amazing record collection, man. I was like, that's where I discovered the Pretenders. So I discovered Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, all the
Right.
classic rock and roll bands.
Well, before we
Hendrix.
get into that, I want to talk about a little bit more about the farm working experience and growing up in these labor camps, and even going back east. Cesar Chavez was a very powerful figure. He was a Navy vet. He was somebody who rose up for the cause of the American farm worker. He established AFL-CIO. How was your experience with Cesar Chavez's movement? What was it like on the farms? Were you a part of the unionization of the farm workers? Was your family a part of that unionization?
I was too young to be a part of the unionization of it, but my mom and dad were both members of the UFW, and my cousins were organizers for Cesar. My cousins
Wow.
used to go picketing with Cesar, and they were also security for Cesar because, one of them, like I said, was a Marine. The other one, they're both about 6'2", 6'3", and about 300 pounds. So there's some big boys.
So
And-
your cousin who was turning you on to the heavy metal and the party lifestyle was also a security guard for Cesar Chavez?
He was.
Holy shit.
Both my cousin Vic and my cousin Viviano were organizers and security for Cesar. And then,
That's intense.
And then my cousin told me that my uncle used to. So they worked at the cement plant in Tehachapi. My uncle and my dad and my uncle and my other uncle, my tío Demisio. And he used to take the planer at the plant, and he'd take a Louisville Slugger, and he would cut the Louisville Slugger in half, so that they would have those for the picketing signs, and because the Teamsters
Like cut it in half or like slice it down?
slice it in half.
Okay.
And
Like slice it in the middle so that there's.
yeah,
Okay.
and the Teamsters would send goons out because the Teamsters were in cahoots with the growers. So they'd send goons out to try to break up the union strikes, and the sheriffs would show up and only arrest the UFW guys. So if they had half of a Louisville Slugger, then you just take the sign off and you start beating the shit out of the Teamster guys.
Nice.
And those were my cousins. Those were
Holy
guys.
shit.
There were some hardcore dudes that you just don't, you don't mess around with, man. They were
Slice a Louisville Slugger. Wow.
You're giving Diego some new ideas, or
Yeah, you're giving me some new ideas. Well, here's the weird thing is that the Teamsters, who were a union, were going after union workers.
Yep.
Or folks trying to unionize.
Well, that's the ugly story about unionization in this country, right? Is that when it started, really for the most part, it was about the worker rights of Caucasian people. It wasn't about minority people. It wasn't about black or brown people or anybody else getting ahead. A lot of the reason that I feel like, this is my opinion, a lot of the reason that the Reagan anti-union stuff took hold was because black and brown people were making strides in society and starting to rise in the status of they were starting to take part in upward mobility in this country. They were joining unions. They were getting paid better. They were getting good jobs, good union jobs. And that causes a lot of friction with the Caucasian people of this country when they see people of color start to rise in the strata of society, start to own homes, start to own businesses, or start to have nice cars or have nice things in life. You look at the Trumpism now. That's basically where we're at again.
Yeah,
I think
complete
everything has
reversal.
come complete full circle. Yeah, man, absolutely.
Right.
Look at the way they devastated Detroit. I mean, Detroit used to be the richest city in this country. You go down there. I mean, I remember going down there on tour in the 90s. It looked like a bombed out city. That's a city. And we made friends in Detroit. We had this friend named Rhonda who was a really sweet girl. And she passed away, unfortunately. But she took us on a tour of all the bars in Detroit one night because we had a day off. And I couldn't believe how beautiful these places were. I mean, just like Art Deco, gorgeous bars all over downtown Detroit. And there was nobody in that city. It was like a ghost city down there. You'd go into a bar and there'd be one or two people sitting in there. These beautiful, ornate, incredible bars, But that's the decimation that kind of thinking, that kind of racist mentality and white supremacist mentality, that's what it does to this country. That's what it has done to this country, and that's what it's going to do to it again. It's going to devastate it again.
Yeah, when I was a kid, my dad was a member of the Department of Chicano Studies at Cal State LA. We definitely grew up in the civil rights movement within our household. When I was 5, 6 years old, my dad used to take me to Tehachapi prison,
My hometown.
to the Candlepower rallies, to the civil rights rallies. My mother used to freak out. But
My cousins
you know
were
what?
probably there.
That was cemented into me. When my dad was driving home one day, he saw students walking out from Lincoln High School, crossing the street. When he drove down Eastern Avenue, he saw students running out from Wilson High School, so he knew something was up. He went and grabbed me. We came back to the high school, and I was a part of the student walkouts. We were there. I remember it. I remember the cholas popping firecrackers in their fingers. It was actually quite a celebration. But, we've come a long way, and now we're going to take 10 steps back. And it's very sad, but I think that if we stick together,
by our own hand, 48% of Latinos voted for that guy. They voted for their own eventual second-class citizenship. Their status.
Hopefully, we'll learn a big lesson, and we'll be able to maintain this great nation. We'll see. You have plans. You have plans with your band. You also have plans on relocating. We'll talk about that a little bit. But I also want to ask you a little bit about your venture in East LA. You have East Side Rehearsals.
Yeah.
That's an amazing little place. We've done some jamming there, nice little rooms. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was touring for a long time, like I said, as a musician. And then I started touring as a roadie, and I started touring as a tour manager, guitar tech. And I ended up on the road for a really long time. And at one point, me and my wife wanted to buy a home. We're like, we need to buy a house. We're getting older. And homes were still affordable back then. So I quit all of my touring jobs, got a regular, job, straight job, just to qualify for a loan. Ended up buying a house here in Boyle Heights. And then my wife was like, you need to start thinking about different types of work, because the work that I was doing to get the house was just destroying my body. So she sort of challenged me, and I came up with this idea of doing a studio, because when I was on tour one time, the band that I was tour managing did about a week at this place in Berlin. And I thought, this place is really cool. Like, it's because it wasn't so corpo. It didn't feel corpo at all. It was run by artists. It was run by musicians. And it had a real relaxed feel to it. And that's what I wanted to do. I was like, I want to do something like that. I want to do it in this neighborhood, because this neighborhood has nothing like that. It's a lot of Chicano people, a lot of Latinos. And I feel like, why do only these neighborhoods get to have it? So took out a bunch of loans, which I'd never done ever in my life.
Right.
Went to a bunch of classes and learned how to do a bunch of stuff like that, like getting loans and then getting funding. We had some savings that we threw into it. We took some money out of our house, out of a little bit of the equity that we had, and then we took a leap of faith and opened that place up. It took me almost a year to get it open, but my friend Eddie came in at the last second and helped us get it open. We built out the rooms. Luckily, because of my touring stuff, I had Mesa Boogie, Orange, DW, sponsorships, and Ampeg. So I already had all the sponsorships because I knew all the reps from the touring stuff.
So that made a big difference in helping you get it off the ground.
Yeah, that helped a lot. It was really cool, and they were very supportive of me. And then
Very nice.
Once I finally got open, I had my first band. And I framed them and I hung them up on the wall.
Like the first dollar, but it's the first band.
It's band.
Well, you have some. You do have some nice bands. You got some pretty cool cats who are rehearsing there. And I've been there. We love the Dio Room. So Dio Room and East Side Rehearsal is a great place. It is pretty cool that you're on Cesar Chavez, and you're also you're in the hood, and that's when I go there, that's the first thing I saw. I was like, man, this is deep, and it's pretty cool because it is a nice hometown feeling, but you got to know Boyle Heights in East LA for you to feel at home. But yeah, man, it's a great place, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How long have you had that rehearsal studio?
It's been open now for I think it's 9 years. We're going on 10.
Nice.
Awesome.
You're gonna have your 10-year anniversary soon. Are you doing anything for it?
No. It's been a rough go, especially lately. I think since the pandemic, it's been really hard. And then since all the inflation stuff after the pandemic took hold, I think that it's been really hard on us and on musicians, I think in general.
Yeah.
In Los Angeles.
We definitely wish you all the best.
Thank you.
So Alma Sangre, let's get back to them. What are your plans? And you have an amazing and beautiful EP, and we're very honored that we're going to be able to help you out a little bit, we hope, and you can help us out with this wonderful compilation we're putting together.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about Alma Sangre and the beautiful music that you guys write together as a team. I do want to ask you a question. When you record your songs, does the flamenco dancing, the tap dancing and the percussion, is that recorded live with your guitar, or is that like a separate track?
So it was originally the first recordings that we made with our friend Silas. We incorporated that more. After we took a break and came back, I wanted to try something different, which is to make it more expansive, to make it more of a realized vision of what I had for the music, which is literally incorporating more instrumentation and incorporating more melodic and harmonic format. So the way that we recorded prior is completely different than the way we record now, which now we record it as a two-piece. Say if it's guitar and bass, we'll lay the basic track down, and then we'll do the vocal just like how we do it live. But then I have all these ideas that I want to put out there. So on this last one, like for example, I did a bunch of cello parts on a bass with a weird little violin what do you call it, bow. So I did bow parts to create sort of the sound of strings. I also brought in electric guitars. I played bass on some of the songs that were more sort of jazzy, like Para Escapar. I played bass on that because I wanted it to be a little bit kind of out there more. And then we added more vocals, like Meg vocal stuff, Meg percussion stuff, like way more stuff. And then we have a friend, his name is Fredo Ortiz. He's actually drumming now for Los Lobos. And Fredo's always down to do a session. So we have Fredo come in occasionally to do drums, or to do congas, or to do timbales, or to do whatever we hear as far as the drum instrumentation is concerned. And it's just it's incredible to have access to a guy like that, like
Sure. It's an honor too.
It's a maestro.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
so now,
your music video where sorry, I don't remember which song it was, but there was a part where you zoom in on your solo and you like look all trippy and there's multiple of you.
Oh yeah, that was Meg's idea. Meg makes all the videos, so it was her idea for me to lay down on the ground, and to lay down, and she was getting the perspective like over and above me. So that was all her artistic direction. She does have a lot of the artistic direction.
Timed and very artistic.
Yeah, absolutely. She has a really good visual. She has a good eye for the visual stuff. Mm-hmm. She's really good. She practically dresses me when we do performances.
Nice,
because we want
Alma a stylist.
Yeah, because we want Alma to be theatrical. We want it to be theater. We don't want it to be like a live rock show. We've done that. We've played that out with the two bands that we were in. We want this to be a theater performance where people sit and watch us play. We just recently got to do a show at this place. I can't remember the name. What is it? Jacumba Hot Springs, Meg's right there. And
hi, Meg.
He says hello.
Hi.
Both of them. And so it was we got to play inside of the ruins of an old hot springs, the roof was completely caved in. So there was no roof. It was just the walls. And it was for Day of the Dead. And they led the procession of all the guests. It was like 75 people or something down the street. And they came into the hot springs and sat. And we were in full like Dia de los Muertos paint.
Nice.
And we performed in front of a really beautiful ofrenda that this lady had made. This lady from San Diego. She lives in Barrio.
What's an ofrenda?
Barrio Logan. The ofrenda is like with the candles and all the beautiful.
Oh, like an offering?
Yeah, the offering of the.
Oh, is that the altar?
Yeah, the altar. Basically,
okay.
It's a beautiful altar. And it was her family, and so we got to perform in front of that. And yeah, it was amazing because people really paid attention. There were actually people crying in the audience. It was just awesome.
Well, it sounds very healing. I mean, it's a band called Blood Soul in a Hot Spring.
I keep falling off this table. I want to say that your voice is very beautiful in your music. It's very soft. It's soothing. It's very tranquil. I think that it's something that's definitely needed, and I definitely wish you all the best with Alma Sangre and your performances, and hopefully this EP can reach out to some audiences, because it's very beautiful.
Thank you.
And getting back to what we were talking about earlier, the culture is as American as it is Mexican.
Absolutely.
And so, you know,
We're the
it's,
original Americans.
I think
well,
the
yes.
music is very like mana. It's, you know, with a little bit of like Santana.
I like
Like,
both
you know, like
bands.
up on that level, at least someday.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, so now, what are your plans? And I do want to ask you, and we normally sort of do this a lot, what do you advise the young people today, young artists, young people who are striving to succeed and get through this? Because now it's sort of changed. Now we got to get through some tough times. What's your advice for young people?
I would say define your idea of success in terms not related to anything monetarily, because you're not going to make money anymore. I mean, unless you're part of the
machine.
0.00001%. We were lucky in our rock bands I was lucky, like we were lucky to tour with a huge band. Like, so we toured, which we got to do 3 weeks with Tool. So we seen
Wow.
we seen the organizational level that it takes. You know, when you're at that level, you're literally a rolling corporation, right?
It's a rolling city.
It's a rolling city. I mean, and there were like probably 50 people or something on tour with them. They had 3 tour buses. They had 9 semis. They had.
That's intense.
Okay, to get to that level, you have to be really lucky in the world. So just, I would say, set your. I mean, aim for the sky, go for it. But set your level of success to be self-fulfillment rather than
Be humble.
Yeah, and rather than wanting to, I have to make $1 million or I'm not going to be happy in life. Go be miserable then, because that's not. It doesn't serve music. Music is there to be served to help you fulfill your life's goals or your life. It's like you're on a journey, your life's journey. It's there to help you. To me it was always, music is here to soothe my soul from whatever trauma that I had as a child, and it's served that purpose, and I hope that it continues to serve that purpose.
Nice.
You know? And that's where I write from, and that whatever you're listening to and whatever you like, if you enjoy it or if it soothes your soul, it's because it's soothing my soul as well. Yeah.
Very nice. Tony, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on this podcast.
Yes, it was nice to meet you.
And being able to chat with you.
Thank you to both of you.
We wish you the best, Meg, in your art and in your travels and in your ventures. And we look forward to working together.
Me too.
This is this could be fun too.
Hell yeah.
So thanks for coming on this podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Awesome. This is Candlepower signing out. Candlepower Hour. Tune in to all of us. We're on Spotify. We're on all the big streaming networks. I do want to thank Electricast. Go to electricast.com. Our hosts, we are fueled by them, and we are appreciative. Very humble. Thank you. Signing out. Candlepower Hour. Thank you, Mercury. Thank you, Tony, Bill Matoyer, Dan Moore. Peace.
Yes.
Sit, Lulu, sit.
Powered by
Electricast.